Okay, so for homework this week, we're going to be working on project 3, and I'm going to show you some examples. We've just in class worked on we've looked at our recipes. We've all been assigned a number for our recipes. We have gone ahead and made a word list of 10 words, adjectives, based on what kind of cookbook we want our design to be. And so we've now narrowed that down to 2. And I'm showing you a process book, and here's a process book from a past student. These are their notes. I'm going to move us into their research. When you guys are putting your process books together for this project, you're going to include your cookbooks that you've used as your dissection. You also want to show what the cookbooks in the full layouts of those cookbooks too into your research section, in addition to the cookbook pages that have the type gauge rulers on. So here's their list of words. They went with flavorful and fun. And so here are some type studies. This is going to be the first step. You're going to be looking at typefaces and setting the headline, the subhead, the introduction, and looking at the ingredients, listing also the names of the typefaces you're using in each example. And you can put 6 examples to an 8.5, 11 page. And here's some different examples. Here's some that are a little bigger, showing different column widths as well. And so we're going to be looking at lots of different typefaces. So you want to think about your organization. For example, some of the notes I had given them is when you have a subhead, it should match your subhead up here. So this should be bold, not different. So you want to think about consistency. There's their example. We're going to also be doing what we call grid sketches. And so I'm going to show you what a grid sketch is. So I encourage you to use grid paper for this exercise. And so when we're doing grid sketches, it's important that you have your body copy in front of you. You all have your copy that you've been given. So this isn't just doing random boxes. You actually need to know how many steps are in your recipe so that you can design a page that includes all of the steps. So for this student, they had 6 steps, and they've indicated that in their layout. They know that there's a section of utensils, nutrition, there's a sidebar, there's an ingredients list, there's an introduction, a subhead, a headline, a hero image. All of those things need to be considered when you're laying out your grid sketch. So the first thing they drew is their grid lines. So you can see this is a 3-column grid. It's a spread. So they're doing 2 pages side by side, which equals a spread. There's a gutter between them because you don't have any type going through the middle of the page, because that's where the pages are bound together. So there's a margin around the edges. This has 3 columns. And you can see they have some type going over all 3 columns. This introduction is going over all 3. Then they have the ingredients going down 1 column. Here they're using utensils, nutrition, and sidebar are all single column. The instructions go over 2 column. This is the second spread for that same design, still a 3-column grid, and how they would design the page without the sidebar. So for this example, there's a headline, subhead, the description. Here they're putting their allergen tags and their serving amounts in a bar. The ingredients come down in a single column. There's the hero image, which is a box with an X. That's always referencing a photo. Instructions, utensils, and nutrition. Okay, so that's design 1. This is design 2. And so for each layout, you're going to have 2 spreads because we're doing 2 recipes plus a sidebar. So when you're sketching out your grids, so here's an example of a 4-column grid. It's a 4-column modular grid. There modular lines are. There's the photo. The headline is overlaying on top of the photo. Then there's a subhead description, ingredients. This one is including 6 steps with the photos for each of the step-by-step instructions. So each square with an X through it is indicating that's going to be a step-by-step photo in this design. And lastly, this design is showing one very large hero image that's filling one whole page, and then they're putting all of the content of the recipe on the adjoining page. And this one has the sidebar, and then this one does not. So this is some design edits that were done during their critique. This student is looking at creating icons for a lot of these elements, like vegetarian, spicy, the different allergens. They're creating icons for each one of those things. So those are some of their sketches for that. And then once we get past the sketching stage, we then move and we'll be building our designs in InDesign and start laying out with our actual copy and information right in InDesign and looking at it with grids on, with grids off, just like we did in our grid exercise. So let me show you another one. Here's their research on cookbooks, looking at some examples of cookbooks, sketches. This student has each one single page rather than put together as spread. So this one wasn't done exactly correct, not as organized, and so this one wasn't done quite right for their sketches on their grids. Let's look at their type studies. So here they did part of their type studies. They're missing this first round, they were missing their ingredients, but you can still see all of the typefaces they were looking at the typefaces for the different elements. Oh, over here's where they are. So here's where the ingredients were explored with the different typefaces, looking at numbers, because numbers are big and very important in a recipe, what kind of numbers each of these typefaces have. And then moving into some of their digital roughs. This one has. Oh yeah, we've already looked at, so this is some of the type studies. And here are the grid studies looking at a 5-column grid. The most important thing is recognizing all the parts and the hierarchy that you need to incorporate in your grid sketches. So it's important to know how many steps you have, how many ingredients you have, how much space you need for your utensils. Each one of the actual pieces of copy, this isn't abstract, you have the real copy, so you need to design with the copy. These are done not as accurately as the ones we've seen earlier. So if you don't incorporate the right information, it really doesn't help inform your design. So it's important to really look at the content you have to make sure you're really designing according to the content you have. Questions.